From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2503, this is Ham Nation Headlines for Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. We begin this week with an important call to action from the IARU. Amateur radio is for everyone, as we know, but not everyone has the same access to what they need to succeed. Some operators, or those who wish to get their license, have disabilities that can get in their way.
One of the greatest challenges of amateur radio ought to be getting a rare DX, logging an all-time new one, or mastering a new skill or operating mode. It should not be the act of trying to get on the air itself. To ensure that radio amateurs with disabilities have the same chance at all the other challenges and adventures, the Programme for Disabled Radio Amateurs in IARU Region 1 is encouraging a celebration on and off the air to reflect ham radio's welcoming spirit. This event will take place on the 3rd of December, which the United Nations has declared to be the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. In an announcement about the programme, its coordinator, Riri Azrak, OD5RI, encourages ham radio societies to plan awareness events, nets, or special events using a special call sign incorporating the letters PDRA. Hams are also being urged to identify and support disabled radio operators or other persons with disabilities who are seeking their license. He wrote, quote, "Together we can demonstrate that amateur radio truly belongs to everyone, regardless of physical or sensory ability," end quote. This is Jeremy Bucci for NJH.
We all know how precious copper can be on our antennas and elsewhere in our shacks. Our broadcast colleagues know it too and have suffered in recent years from vandalism and theft involving copper, and it's taken them off the air. One FCC commissioner recently called publicly for a tougher response.
There is a growing epidemic of attacks on communication sites, and the response needs to include sharper federal penalties and more sophisticated preventative action from the industry, according to the latest commissioner to join the FCC. Olivia Trusty, who was confirmed to the agency in June, called on telecom companies and broadcasters to fortify their sites with tamper-proof housings, cameras, and alarms, and said the government must likewise step up to penalties for theft and vandalism. The past 2 years have seen a number of high-profile copper thefts in the United States, disabling internet and television services and knocking broadcast stations off the air. For some radio stations, the result was tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. Trusty noted that in some instances, the 911 emergency service was disrupted by similar attacks on telecom sites, with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security calling communication systems a top infrastructure sector. A bipartisan measure has been introduced in Congress to address these concerns. It is known as the Stopping the Theft and Destruction of Broadband Act of 2025 and was introduced by a Democrat and a Republican lawmaker with support from the industry. This is Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
And finally this week, we mourn the passing of Ed Hare, W1RFI.
Newsline sends its condolences to the ARRL and the family of Ed Hare, W1RFI, who had a long tenure as an engineer in the league's lab. Ed became a silent key on the 10th of October after a long illness, according to the ARRL's website. A specialist in radio frequency interference and product testing, Ed had retired in 2023 but was still volunteering his time in the lab at the time of his death. His career had many milestones, including the ARRL's RFI program, which helps hams resolve interference issues. A devoted and proficient CW operator, Ed was 75. Rest in peace, Ed.
Newsline anchor Jim Dameron, N8TMW. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news since 1976 at arnewsline.org. With Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, Jim Dameron, N8TMW, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe, I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3, we'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.